You know, there's something bigger than the border between Canada and the United States. Something that binds our lands together better than any international boundary ever could. I'm on a journey to explore that essential element, Aboriginal people. And so I'm using the border as a guide to meet as many fascinating people in as many interesting places as I can. This is about our history, our culture, and our future. Because for me, the border is not a boundary. It's something completely different, and I call it the medicine line. You know, I'm always capturing fleeting moments with my camera. Things that happen in an instant, so I've got to make sure that I'm in the right place at the right time. Other times when I'm filming, well, it's a little more permanent and it's just kind of waiting for me to stumble on it. And it likely would be thousands, maybe even millions of years before it ever disappears. I'm talking about stones. I'm in the White Shell Provincial Park in Manitoba. So Peter, tell me about this area.
This is Manito Ahbee. We call it Manito Ahbee, where the spirit sits. This is where everything happened for our people, whether it be for ceremonies or just getting together for teachings. And there's another place over here, further north, where our spiritual leaders and elders believe that Wenabujou was lowered to that area. That's where he was given his instructions. Wenabujou was the original man. The spirit was lowered here. What the Creator did then was he took 4 scoops of the earth and formed a physical figure of man. So this is a beautiful area to be in.
So Tony, tell me a little more about your work and what you've done here.
Well, as an archaeologist, my primary function is recording for the purposes of monitoring and preservation. So whenever we get a report of a new feature, I come out and map it. Periodically go back to revisit it to see if it's been altered or not. Petroforms, a name invented by archaeologists about 50 years ago to describe these outline figures made by the placement of boulders, rocks, on the open surface here. Most common here, originally at least, turtles and snakes, effigy figures. Possibly 100 known sites similar to this. Remarkably, they seem to be clustered within a very, very small area, along the White Shell River, to a lesser extent along parts of the Winnipeg River.
And I guess the golden question, how old are they?
No one really knows unless they saw the person who built them. We're talking here about boulders placed simply on top of exposed rock. We've tried measuring the rates of lichen growth on newly exposed surfaces, and it doesn't seem to be a constant. It grows, it dies off, it restarts again.
What do you think originally would have happened here? What would have been used for?
We know that snakes and turtles are the most common features, and they generally occur near rivers and lakes. We find that snakes very often are located at portages pointing to rivers, whereas turtles occur at portages pointing towards lakes. Highway signs, helping people to travel through the land. At more remote sites, further inland, the features tend to be much, much bigger, and they're geometric. And so we feel that those are probably ceremonial in nature.
What does this site mean to you?
I think the ongoing interest in this site in particular speaks of a growing interest in the history and heritage of Native peoples in the province, which can only be a good thing.
I like the idea that no one actually knows how old this site is. So I grab my camera to do some exploration. I wanted to see if I could decipher these images for myself, figure out what they mean, even if it's just for me. There's just something captivating about this place.
That place, in our language, it's called A sinig comes nab kishnawad. The stones that were put in a special formation, maybe since the beginning of time, placed there. And somebody special had to make that place. Comes nab kishnawad a sinig. What was placed was the stones in a special way.
A special way of placing the stones. And how do you say that again? Inoji boy.
Comes nab kishnawad a sinig.
Kamasanab,
Shishnawad.
Shishnawa, Asanik.
Comes nab kishnawad a sinig.
Many of our people gather here for, like I say, for ceremonies. They come and hang up a cloth for whatever reason. Sometimes people have dreams or visions of they need to do this. They need to do this for their clans. They need to do this for their relatives that have gone on. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience. That's what we are. Nobody I know has all the answers. But in these stones, they have lots of answers. They have lots of information. They said to us one time, if you were to get all the information out of these rocks, you'd go crazy because that'd be too much information. It's so beautiful in that way. So we're limited to what we know. But we appreciate that our ancestors left these things for us.
I'm in the White Shell Provincial Park, visiting Manito Ahbee, an Aboriginal spiritual site that's at least thousands of years old. All sorts of rocks were laid on the landscape, some in the shape of animals, and others look more like humans. And just past the rocks is a patch of trees where people make offerings with strips of cloth and tobacco. It's visually stunning, so I just had to grab my camera and get a closer look. I hope this is okay.
People will journey there. They'll look for something, try to understand more.
How do you open yourself to accept? Like, is there a place in your mind to go?
That's why you have sweat lodge, so you kind of clear your mind. You want to be able to share with the spirit. I want to go and have a good visit, maybe let go of some stuff that I don't need to carry along with me.
Manito Ahbee has a real beauty to it, and even though I made an offering here, I still feel like I'm hanging on to something. Maybe it's because my journey's not over yet. I'm not sure, but I feel really lucky to have been to a place like this. So now I'm headed to a place with more stones that tell a whole different story. Actually, it's one big stone, and its story is still taking shape. It's a pretty well-known landmark if you've ever traveled through South Dakota, and it's located smack dab in the middle of the Black Hills. Crazy Horse Memorial is a big deal in these parts. It draws tourists from around the world. If you don't know who Crazy Horse is, you should. He was a Lakota warrior that was instrumental at the Battle of Little Bighorn. I met up with Ruth Jolkowski, the lady in charge of the site whose husband started this project back in 1948.
What does the mountain mean to you?
It's a symbol in a lot of ways. By carving this mountain, he wanted to give back to the Indian people their pride. And so the mountain is that. It's also a catalyst that brings people here, and when it's finished and people come to it and you don't need the money to carve the mountain anymore, then his goal was to build a museum, a medical training center, and a university, not just for the Lakota who asked him out here, but for Indians from over the entire country.
So tell me about the people that picked the mountain and who selected Korchak.
Well, actually, Chief Henry Standing Bear is the one who wrote to Korchak, and Standing Bear had watched Mount Rushmore grow. And he read in the Rapid City Journal that the sculptor who assisted Borglum at Rushmore had won first prize at the New York World's Fair, and that it was Korchak. And he wrote to Korchak in Connecticut and asked him if he would carve a mountain for the Indian people. It had the line in it that said, "We would like the white men to know the red men have great heroes also." And that was the line that really hooked Korchak. And he looked at Korchak and he said, "What's your birthday?" And Korchak said, "September 6th. And Standing Bear said, "Now I understand." And Korchak said, "What do you understand?" And he said, "Why you said yes, that you'd carve the mountain." And Standing Bear went on to explain that Crazy Horse was killed on September 6th.
I wanted to check out a scale model of the Crazy Horse site, just as Korchak imagined it. I even brought my own special mini jib to fly my camera over the model to get a better look. So this is what the mountain is going to look like when it's done. Okay, now I'm really curious how big this thing is. And the only way to find out is to hitch a ride up the mountain and see it for myself. When I reached the top, wow, it hit me. This sculpture, it's huge. Larger than life doesn't even describe it. So if you look at me like from the distance, you would see me out on the arm of Crazy Horse. And just check out some of these shots. Up here, filming Crazy Horse from all these angles, it's really easy to lose track of time. I was up here so long that even the mountain carvers came in to start their workday. This is Jeff. He sets the blasts, as in kaboom. Back in the day, he even worked right alongside Korchak. What was he like? You knew him.
The best way for me to describe him is I thought he was a Renaissance man. Imagine coming out here. And for one, you know, he could have stayed out east and been very, very wealthy, but he decided to pick up this dream of, you know, from Henry Standing Bear, come out here when There was no home, there was no road getting up here. I mean, just to climb up the mountain. I mean, so perseverance, you know, there's so many words you could use to describe him. Truly, you know, his work is a testimony, I think, of who the man is.
When Korchak heard that the white man needed to see a red man's hero, and he built this, and he hands it off to you to bring across the finish line, based on all that, what does this mountain mean to you?
The Indian, you know, is to me has always been portrayed in a defeating moment. So that symbolism of, you know, to me is a great honor to the Native American, and not only Lakota, but, you know, from one coast to the other.
I found out they were doing a big night blast to celebrate Ruth's upcoming birthday, as well as the anniversary of the Battle of Little Bighorn. So I decided to stick around and film the big show. I'm at the Crazy Horse Memorial, learning about Crazy Horse, the man, as well as Korchak, the artist who began carving the mountain. I'm waiting around to film a night blast taking place on the mountain tonight. But first, I needed to talk to someone about how special the Black Hills are to the Lakota people.
There was nothing here on this turtle island. There was no form of life. And creation, Tunkashila Wakantanka, the Great Spirit, had thought to himself, he said, well, I made this beautiful, beautiful turtle island, and I want to share that with some life. That was the Tatanka, the buffalo, the Pteoyate, the buffalo nation. And so a lot of our history and our ceremonies tie in with Tatanka, or Pteoyate, the buffalo nation. And so there's a lot of symbolisms in our ceremonies through Tatanka and the buffalo, Pteoyate. And so part of our creation story is that we had followed the buffalo out of Wind Cave. Now it's a national park, you know, this Wind Cave. But our legends say that we followed the buffalo from the underground, the world from the underground, to here onto this. And that's what our story tells us.
You've been to the carving?
Yeah.
You've been up top?
Sure, yeah.
I didn't have anything to say. It was just so powerful.
Yeah. A lot of thought, you know, comes to me about not only him as the leader, but also the people. And what I can feel is the compassion that he had for the people, especially the children, you know, especially the women, the elders like that, you know, the ones that couldn't protect themselves, you know. Basically, that's my thought on the mountain. That's what its purpose is, you know, building these bridges with other nations, you know, other people, you know, not only Americans, but there's many nationalities that come all over the world, you know. They know nothing about Native American people. They know nothing about Lakota.
Well, just if you could give me some advice on telling this story that we're involved in right now, what would you advise me? What would you tell me?
Just keep it real and keep it sacred. You know, they'll have a good understanding of Khashunke Witko, Crazy Horse, you know.
It's finally time for the night blast in celebration of Ruth's birthday and the anniversary of the Battle of Little Bighorn. Ruth even got me a special parking spot so I could film the spectacle from the top of the RV. It's impressive to see how many people come out to see this night blast. being up there on top of the mountain with this giant face 10 feet from me was the highlight. And that, if anything, made me wonder what Crazy Horse was really like. It makes me wonder about that, if anything. And quite a show. Hats off to Korchak. His family's still living the dream. And hats off to Crazy Horse.